The Salem Witch Trials, a haunting chapter in American history. The Salem Witch Trials of 1692 are one of the most infamous events in American colonial history. Set in the Puritan settlement of Salem Village, Massachusetts, this dark chapter reflects a tragic combination of fear, superstition, and societal pressures that led to the persecution of innocent people. These trials, lasting from February 1692 to May 1693, resulted in the execution of 20 individuals and left an indelible mark on American culture. Let's delve deeply into the factors, events, and aftermath of these trials to uncover why they remain a subject of fascination today, i.e., the historical context. To fully understand the Salem Witch Trials, we must first examine the social, political, and religious climate of the late 17th century. 1. Puritanism and religious zeal. The Puritans, who founded Massachusetts Bay Colony, believed they were creating a city upon a hill, a model of Christian living. Their strict adherence to Calvinist doctrine and emphasis on moral purity created an environment ripe for fear of the devil and witchcraft. Puritan sermons often depicted Satan as a real and ever-present danger, fostering a culture of paranoia. 2. Political unrest. The late 1600s were turbulent years for New England. The region had recently undergone significant political changes, including the dissolution of the Massachusetts Bay Colony's original charter in 1684. This change disrupted local governance and sowed distrust among the populace. In 1689, the Glorious Revolution in England further destabilized the colonies, creating tensions that would later boil over in Salem. 3. Socioeconomic divisions. Salem Village itself was divided along economic lines. Wealthier residents who lived closer to Salem town often clashed with poorer, agrarian families in the village's outskirts. These tensions exacerbated suspicions and rivalries, providing fertile ground for accusations of witchcraft. 2. The catalyst for chaos. 1. The afflicted girls. The Salem Witch Trials began in January 1692 when two young girls, Elizabeth Parris, 9, and Abigail Williams, 11, began exhibiting strange behaviors. The girls, the daughter and niece of Salem Village's minister Samuel Parris, experienced violent fits, uncontrollable screaming, and bizarre contortions. The local physician, unable to diagnose a physical ailment, attributed their behavior to witchcraft. Soon other girls, including Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, and Mary Walcott, began displaying similar symptoms. 2. The role of Tituba. Tituba, an enslaved woman in the Parris household, became a central figure early on. Under pressure, she confessed to practicing witchcraft, claiming she had been coerced by the devil. Her vivid testimony, filled with fantastical details about flying on brooms and signing the devil's book, inflamed public hysteria.
The Salem Witch Trials, a haunting chapter in American history. The Salem Witch Trials of 1692 are one of the most infamous events in American colonial history.
Set in the Puritan settlement of Salem Village, Massachusetts,
this dark chapter reflects a tragic combination of fear, superstition, and societal pressures that led to the persecution of innocent people. These trials, lasting from February 1692 to May 1693, resulted in the execution of 20 individuals and left an indelible mark on American culture. Let's delve deeply into the factors, events, and aftermath of these trials to uncover why they remain a subject of fascination today. The historical context. To fully understand the Salem Witch Trials, we must first examine the social, political, and religious climate of the late 17th century. 1. Puritanism and religious zeal. The Puritans, who founded Massachusetts Bay Colony, believed they were creating a city upon a hill, a model of Christian living. Their strict adherence to Calvinist doctrine and emphasis on moral purity created an environment ripe for fear of the devil and witchcraft. Puritan sermons often depicted Satan as a real and ever-present danger, fostering a culture of paranoia. 2. Political unrest. The late 1600s were turbulent years for New England. The region had recently undergone significant political changes, including the dissolution of the Massachusetts Bay Colony's original charter in 1684. This change disrupted local governance and sowed distrust among the populace. In 1689, the Glorious Revolution in England further destabilized the colonies, creating tensions that would later boil over in Salem. 3. Socioeconomic divisions. Salem Village itself was divided along economic lines. Wealthier residents who lived closer to Salem town often clashed with poorer, agrarian families in the village's outskirts. These tensions exacerbated suspicions and rivalries, providing fertile ground for accusations of witchcraft. 2. The catalyst for chaos. 1. The afflicted girls. The Salem Witch Trials began in January 1692, when two young girls, Elizabeth Parris, 9, and Abigail Williams, 11, began exhibiting strange behaviors. The girls, the daughter and niece of Salem Village's minister Samuel Parris, experienced violent fits, uncontrollable screaming, and bizarre contortions. The local physician, unable to diagnose a physical ailment, attributed their behavior to witchcraft. Soon, other girls, including Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, and Mary Walcott, began displaying similar symptoms. 2. The role of Tituba. Tituba, an enslaved woman in the Parris household, became a central figure early on. Under pressure, she confessed to practicing witchcraft, claiming she had been coerced by the devil. Her vivid testimony, filled with fantastical details about flying on brooms and signing the devil's book, inflamed public hysteria. 3. The trials unfold. 1. The first accusations. The first three individuals accused were Tituba, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne. These women were easy targets. Tituba was an enslaved outsider. Good was a homeless beggar, and Osborne was an elderly, sickly woman who had been involved in legal disputes. Their marginalized status made them vulnerable scapegoats. 2. Legal proceedings. The colonial legal system relied heavily on spectral evidence, or testimony about dreams and visions involving the accused. This type of evidence was controversial even at the time, but was frequently accepted during the trials. Judges such as John Hathorne and Samuel Sewall presided over the proceedings with a zealous determination to root out witchcraft. 3. The expanding web. As the trials progressed, accusations spread rapidly. Prominent community members, including Rebecca Nurse, a respected elderly woman, and Martha Corey, were implicated. Even children and animals were accused of being witches or familiars. 5. The executions. Between June and September 1692, 19 individuals were hanged on Gallows Hill, and one man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death with heavy stones after refusing to plead. The condemned maintained their innocence, choosing to die rather than confess to crimes they did not commit. Vita, the collapse of the trials. 1. Growing doubts. By late 1692, public opinion began to shift. Prominent figures like Increase Mather criticized the use of spectral evidence, and Governor William Phips intervened, dissolving the Court of Oyer and Terminer. 2. The end of the trials. In May 1693, Phips pardoned the remaining accused witches, officially ending the Salem Witch Trials. By the aftermath. 1. Cultural impact. The Salem Witch Trials left a lasting legacy in American culture. They have inspired countless works of literature, including Arthur Miller's The Crucible, which draws parallels between the trials and McCarthyism. 2. Lessons learned. The trials are often cited as a cautionary tale about the dangers of mass hysteria, scapegoating, and judicial overreach. 70. Modern reflections. Today, Salem is a vibrant tourist destination known for its witchcraft-themed attractions. The trials continue to serve as a reminder of the human capacity for fear and injustice. 8. The lives of the accused. True profiles of the accused. The individuals accused during the Salem Witch Trials came from all walks of life. While many were outcasts or marginalized members of society, others were respected figures whose accusations shocked the community. For example, Rebecca Nurse, a 71-year-old grandmother, known for her piety and charity. Nurse's conviction struck fear into the hearts of Salem's residents. If someone so virtuous could be found guilty, who was safe? Her trial revealed how even the most baseless claims could lead to a death sentence. Bridget Bishop. The first person executed during the trials, Bishop was known for her unconventional lifestyle, including wearing flashy clothing. Her case illustrated how societal expectations for women could influence accusations. Giles Corey. Refusing to enter a plea, Corey was subjected to peine forte et dure, a brutal method of pressing until his death. His famous last words, "more weight," symbolize resistance in the face of injustice. 2. The impact on families. The families of the accused faced ostracism and economic hardship. Property was often confiscated and children were left destitute. Many spent years trying to restore their reputations after the trials ended. 9. Factors driving the hysteria. 1. Psychological theories. Modern historians and psychologists have proposed several theories to explain the afflicted girl's behavior, including ergot poisoning. Some scholars suggest that contaminated rye bread containing ergot fungus, a hallucinogenic substance, may have caused symptoms resembling demonic possession. Mass hysteria. The collective stress of living in a rigid, theocratic society likely exacerbated the girl's symptoms, creating a feedback loop of fear and attention-seeking, repression and trauma. The rigid societal norms and harsh punishments for disobedience may have caused psychological stress that manifested in dramatic ways. 2. Socioeconomic rivalries. The rift between Salem Village and Salem Town played a crucial role. Many accused witches came from families aligned with the more affluent, mercantile Salem Town, while accusers often hailed from the agrarian, conservative faction of Salem Village. 3. Misogyny and gender roles. The majority of the accused were women, reflecting deeply entrenched misogyny in Puritan society. Women who defied traditional roles, whether by being outspoken, financially independent, or childless, were more likely to be targeted. X. The role of religion. 1. A theocratic society. In Puritan Massachusetts, religious and civil laws were intertwined. Ministers wielded enormous influence, and deviation from religious orthodoxy was tantamount to treason. 2. The devil as a real threat. Puritans believed that Satan actively sought to undermine their community. Witchcraft was not just a crime, but a spiritual attack. This belief intensified the urgency of rooting out suspected witches. 3. The role of clergy. Some ministers, like Cotton Mather, initially supported the trials, believing they were a necessary battle against evil. Others, like Increase Mather, later condemned the reliance on spectral evidence, helping to end the hysteria. X. The judicial process. 1. The Court of Oya and Termina. This special court was established to handle the flood of witchcraft cases. Presided over by Lieutenant Governor William Stoughton, it prioritized confessions and spectral evidence over rational inquiry. 2. Spectral evidence. The reliance on testimony involving spirits or visions marked a departure from traditional legal standards. Critics pointed out that such evidence was unverifiable and easily fabricated. 3. The turning point. As skepticism grew, figures like Increase Mather argued that it was better for 10 guilty people to go free than for one innocent person to be condemned. This shift in perspective eventually led to the court's dissolution. C. The aftermath. 1. Pardon and reparations. In 1711, the Massachusetts government formally apologized for the trials, compensating the victims' families. However, the stigma endured for generations. 2. Cultural legacy. The Salem Witch Trials have become a symbol of the dangers of groupthink and unchecked authority. They are frequently invoked in discussions about civil liberties and due process. Untold. Modern interpretations. 1. Literature and media. From Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter to Arthur Miller's The Crucible, the trials have inspired countless works that explore themes of morality, power, and fear. 2. Tourism in Salem. Today, Salem attracts visitors with its witch-themed museums, reenactments, and Halloween celebrations. While some criticize the commercialization of tragedy, others view it as a way to educate and remember. 3. Ongoing research. Historians continue to unearth new insights into the trials, examining everything from court records to the personal diaries of those involved. 4. Lessons for the present. The Salem Witch Trials are a stark reminder of what can happen when fear and suspicion override reason and justice. In an era of misinformation and polarization, their lessons remain as relevant as ever. Hint. Philosophical reflections on hysteria. 1. Fear and its power. The Salem Witch Trials exemplify how fear can spread like wildfire through a community. At its core, the trials were fueled by the fear of the unknown, fear of outsiders, fear of the devil, and fear of societal collapse. Philosophers and psychologists have since analyzed this phenomenon to understand how collective fear can lead to irrational behavior. 2. Justice and morality. The trials force us to question the foundations of justice. When society abandons evidence-based reasoning in favor of superstition and hearsay, justice becomes a casualty. Salem reminds us that moral panics often target the most vulnerable, reflecting deep-seated inequalities and biases. 3. The human need for scapegoats. Anthropologists have observed that societies under stress often look for scapegoats to blame for their problems. In Salem, witches served this purpose. They were seen as the embodiment of evil, allowing the community to externalize and purge its fears. 16th, the trials in global context. 1. Witch hunts in Europe. The Salem Witch Trials were part of a broader historical phenomenon. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, Europe saw tens of thousands of witch trials, often accompanied by gruesome executions. Countries like Germany and Scotland experienced some of the highest rates of persecution, with accusations frequently driven by political, religious, or economic factors. 2. Witchcraft accusations worldwide. Even today, witchcraft accusations persist in parts of Africa, South Asia, and Latin America. These modern cases often reflect similar dynamics to Salem communities, in crisis turning on perceived outsiders or troublemakers. 3. Salem's unique legacy. Unlike many European witch trials, which often involve torture and confessions, Salem's reliance on spectral evidence and its abrupt ending make it a unique chapter in the history of witch persecutions. Its compact timeline and dramatic impact have cemented it as a cautionary tale. 17th, the psychology of confession. 1. Why did people confess? One of the most puzzling aspects of the Salem witch trials is why so many accused individuals confessed to witchcraft despite its severe consequences. Several factors likely influenced these confessions. Fear of death. Confessing sometimes spared the accused from execution, offering them a slim hope of survival. Psychological pressure. The intense interrogation methods used by authorities created an environment where confessing seemed like the only escape. Guilt and suggestion. Some individuals may have internalized the accusations, genuinely believing they were under Satan's influence after constant reinforcement from authority figures. 2. The role of authority. The judges and ministers conducting the trials wielded immense power. Their belief in the righteousness of their mission left little room for doubt, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of accusation and confession. Sweet, cultural and artistic impact. 1. The trials in literature. The Salem Witch Trials have inspired countless authors, including Arthur Miller, his play. The Crucible draws parallels between Salem and the McCarthy era, Red Scare of the 1950s, when Americans were accused of communist sympathies without proper evidence. Nathaniel Hawthorne, a descendant of one of the Salem judges, Hawthorne grappled with his ancestral legacy in works like The House of the Seven Gables. 2. Popular media. Films, TV shows, and documentaries have dramatized the Salem Witch Trials, sometimes taking creative liberties, from hocus pocus to historical reenactments. Salem remains a compelling subject for storytellers. 3. Art and poetry. The trials have also inspired visual and literary artists to explore themes of persecution, fear, and redemption. Modern exhibitions often use Salem as a lens to discuss broader social injustices. Salem as a modern metaphor. 1. Witch hunts in modern discourse. The term witch hunt has become a metaphor for unjust persecution. From political campaigns to workplace scandals, it's often used to criticize investigations or accusations perceived as baseless or motivated by personal agendas. 2. Lessons for social media. In the age of social media, the dynamics of Salem feel eerily familiar. False accusations, public shaming, and mob mentality can spread instantaneously, creating digital witch hunts that ruin lives in seconds. 3. Ethical responsibility. Salem challenges us to be vigilant against hysteria, encouraging critical thinking and compassion in the face of societal pressures. Gezeig visiting Salem today. 1. Historical tourism. Salem has embraced its history as a center for witchcraft lore. Visitors can explore the Salem Witch Museum, offering a detailed overview of the trials, complete with life-size dioramas and historical artifacts. The Witch House, the former home of Judge Jonathan Corwin. This preserved structure provides insights into 17th century life. Old Burying Point Cemetery, final resting place of many key figures, including the infamous Judge Hathorne. 2. Modern witchcraft. Salem is now a hub for Wicca and other modern pagan traditions. Shops, festivals, and workshops celebrate contemporary witchcraft, blending history with spirituality. 3. Reflecting on the past. While Salem has commercialized its legacy, many efforts aim to educate visitors about the real tragedy behind the witch trials. The city serves as both a tourist destination and a place of solemn remembrance. Final reflections on the Salem Witch Trials. The Salem Witch Trials of 1692 remain one of the most profound cautionary tales in history. They expose the dangers of unchecked fear, the destructive power of false accusations, and the societal damage that arises from prejudice and mass hysteria. Over the course of just a few months, a small New England village became the epicenter of one of the darkest chapters in American history, a tragedy that cost lives and left a lasting scar on the collective conscience. What makes Salem truly unforgettable is its reflection of universal human tendencies. It reminds us how quickly fear can cloud judgment and how vulnerable we are to scapegoating during times of uncertainty. It challenges us to consider the fragility of justice when truth is sacrificed for convenience or control. The trials are not just a story of 17th century Puritans. They are a mirror reflecting dynamics that recur throughout history and, alarmingly, still manifest in modern forms today. Salem's enduring legacy lies in its ability to teach us these lessons. It compels us to protect the principles of fairness, reason, and compassion in all aspects of society. Whether we face political, cultural, or personal crises, Salem serves as a reminder to stay vigilant against the forces of division and hysteria. In the end, Salem is more than a historical event. It is a timeless symbol of humanity's capacity for both destruction and redemption. It urges us to honor the memory of those who suffered by committing ourselves to truth, understanding, and justice, ensuring that such tragedies remain a part of history, never to be repeated.